Hey guys, let's talk about regulations related to remote drone ID. Regulations are created by governments and it is a law. States set policies and regulations to integrate drones into their airspace to maintain high level of safety, privacy, and security for other airspace users as well as the public. We already had regulations in US and European Union and Russia, China, and other countries. But only few governments recently realized the significance of real-time drone identification for allowing security agencies and law enforcement to identify potential threats, respond in real time, and gather enough information for investigation and forensics. Let's look at USA. According to FAA, remote identification is a crucial prerequisite for the full integration of drones in national airspace. The FAA peer-reviewed the existing ICAO standards and recommended practices and has determined that no standards and recommended practices correspond to drone identification. Taking in consideration the international nature of drone productions, air and public safety, the FAA had collaboration with many organizations. As you can see, the main topic of all these meetings and collaboration was drone remote ID and its role in integrated drones in national airspace. After analyzing and discussing international experience related to drone identification, FAA published NPRM, Notice of Proposal Rulemaking, on December 31st, 2019, and received over 50,000 comments on NPRM during the 60 days comment period following publication. FAA analyzed and discussed comments, and then USA published the final version of remote identification of an unmanned aircraft rule on January 15, 2021. Let's see at the essential parts of these rules. All drones should broadcast identification information. It could be done in two ways. First way, your drone has a factory built-in broadcast module. They call drones like this as a standard remote identification unmanned aircraft. It broadcasts unique identifier to establish the identity of unmanned aircraft. It could be serial number or session ID. The FAA sees the session ID as preferable way of identification, but it's not clear yet where the session ID will come from. Next, indication of unmanned aircraft latitude, longitude, geometric altitude, and velocity. Indication of the control station, latitude, longitude, and geometric altitude. Time mark. Emergency status indication, such as lost link, downed aircraft, or other abnormal statuses. Second way, your drone is equipped with a separate broadcast module. It should broadcast the serial number of broadcast module assigned by producer. An indication of the latitude, longitude, geometric altitude, and velocity of unmanned aircraft. Indication of the latitude, longitude, and geometric altitude of the unmanned aircraft takeoff location, and time mark. There is one exception from this rule. You can still fly a drone without remote ID functionality and not equip it with broadcast module. In this case, you can fly a drone at FAA recognized identification area, FRIA in short. The operation within FRIA is limited to visual line of sight only. I'd like to highlight other interesting parts of a new rule. The rule prohibits use of ADS-B out and transponders for UAS operation unless otherwise authorized by FAA. The rule introduces procedure of acceptance of a standard remote identification unmanned aircraft and broadcast modules. The rule eliminated network-based remote identification. I will touch this topic later on this video. The rule provides interoperability conception for broadcasting messages. The format of broadcast message should be known for public. The transmission rate of messages should be at least one message per second, and the broadcast messages should be transmitted in unlicensed frequency range, similar to that used by Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices. The rule requires that producer of UAS or remote identification broadcast module should assign them a serial number that complies with existing standards. No person will be permitted to operate a foreign registered civil unmanned aircraft with remote identification in the airspace of the United States unless, prior to the operation, the person submits a notice of identification. Okay, what about flying beyond visual line of sight and flying over people? These operations are available in a vision of UAS traffic management, UTM. Drone remote ID is a fundamental part of UTM, but conception of UTM describes two kinds of drone remote ID. First one, direct broadcast, transmission of data in one direction only with no specific destination or recipient. Data can be received by anyone within broadcast range. Second one, network publishing, transmission of data to internet service or federation of services. Clients can access published data from those services to obtain UAS ID and tracking information. As we see, the rule contains information regarding direct broadcast only. Network publishing deals with network remote ID, and current regulation, as I told you, just excluded it from the scope. So, for now, broadcasting remote drone ID gives us just information about drone, but it doesn't help with drone's traffic management, flying beyond visual line of sight, or flying over people. Future will tell us whether US will adopt broadcasting remote ID for traffic management, or it will be a new story about network remote ID. Finally, I'd like to mention two important dates which were set in the rule. After September 16, 2022, all drones produced to operate in US airspace must meet requirements for standard remote identification unmanned aircraft. In other words, they must transmit remote ID messages described in the rule during the flight. After September 16, 2023, no person may operate an unmanned aircraft within airspace of the United States unless the operation meets the requirements of the rule. Thank you for watching this video. In the next part, I will describe remote drone ID regulations in other countries.